destroyed all the Zooms. Delete them. They're using it to train AIs.
Welcome to another edition of Consensus Unreality.
This is a AI training episode.
The tech's gone bad, Ben. The tech's gone bad.
I'd say that the tech's always been bad. I think that from the moment we used tools, we were not in line with God's sort of idea for us, which was to be nude.
That's interesting, though, because that's not really... I think she does say in the afterword it is kind of a self-proclaimed exercise in hyper-nihilism.
I kind of found that to be like... Not that I disagree, and I can certainly see it being like... I just think it's interesting to put that kind of disclaimer at the end after I just spent 100 pages being like, man, this person like has a really sort of a dim view on the nature of reality and the universe. And then she's like, saying, well, actually, it's sort of trying to get at a certain philosophical point by putting on nihilist drag, which is cool, but it's kind of interesting to put it at the end.
Well, yeah, I don't think it necessarily detracts from the sentiment of the theory, and I do think it is an apt temperature of the climate right now. Certainly, there's a what you mentioned at the top of the show, was the tech ever good? Well, there was kind of, we've talked about this on episodes before. There was sort of a virtual utopianism of the early internet, and I think now the dust has kind of settled, and there's just there's a very paranoid state. There's also a lot of realization, and whether that comes in actual realization, or if it's the CIA invented the internet, and what am I thinking about? There's a million different even Pokemon Go,
ARPANET stuff and
but
DARPA
even
research,
smaller stuff than that. If you go on Twitter right now, it's a million memes of just when you realize CAPTCHA, every time you did a CAPTCHA, you were training it's
yeah.
If you were had any
why else would you be
semblance
doing
of
that?
you would have known that stuff already. When
Why
Pokemon
would you be
Go
doing
was first came out, it was very easy to just look at the company,
the Niantic company. I remember that was
and the first day you could see that they had contracts with the CIA, so it was of course a location based mapping experiment was going to amount to something in terms of what it's being used for now, which is one of the applications is yes, yeah. Well, that's kind of at the heart of the dark force internet theory. One element of it, though, is that we're all kind of complacent in building this massive superstructure of the internet, and we've already sort of through our own actions, through our involvement and willingness to disembody and enter into these virtual environments, we train this cybernetic super system. We also build its architecture. We funnel resources into it. We're all kind of whether conscious or not, we've been acting as a hive mind, building this massive planetary signature, which she theorizes in a Fermi complex situation could sort of be detected as a global message, almost like the noise of the internet as itself covers the Earth as almost like the plasmasphere does. But it's a plasmoidal covering of informational chaos and calamity, right? So in one instance, it's almost received by alien civilizations as a weapon.
Right. Yeah, she was referencing Blind Sight by Watts, which is a great, insane sci-fi novel. that I've read actually, which is nice because I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, they react to the internet, our sort of like cumulative babbling as they try to like decode it because they think it's a message and it like fries their decoding capabilities, so they think of it more as like a virus or a weapon. As far as yeah, the what you were saying earlier, the utopian sort of era of the internet, or that I mean, you do wonder if the internet wasn't always just aimed in the direction of where it is now. And that's kind of almost a commonplace critique, or yeah, not critique, but that the internet was born as sort of a surveillance
Yeah.
device, and that's sort of, and now it's just grow. It's it's reached maturity.
Well,
It went through
that's
its sort
yeah.
of its cute phase as like a community building thing, and now it's sort of reached its. It's like adopting like a baby tiger or something, and like then the tiger reaches maturity and does what it is designed to do, which
Right.
is
Right.
bite on your head or whatever. Which isn't to say it's not still striped and cute and stuff. I guess it's kind of a nihilistic way of looking at that as well. But yeah, and
Well,
so her Dark Forest thing is based on the Cixin Liu
mhm.
novel, the Three Body Problem, and then the sequel, the Dark Forest. And he's a really interesting figure and like monumentally popular for a sci-fi writer in contemporary literature. I read the first one and quite liked it, but I never finished the trilogy. I'd like to, but so she's kind of the book is weird for me in that way because and I guess it's not that uncommon to base sort of a philosophical or what would you call it, like a futurological or like a sort of like a diagnostic on a literary uh, concept, and even like Cixin Liu was a scientist as well, so it's not like he's uninformed on the sort of implications of these kinds of things, especially communication technologies. Um,
Well, I think it's
but
a
yeah,
it's a more common activity now, and clearly we see that coming out of like the
yeah,
Nick Land school, right? Like the
sure,
adoption of Lovecraft and almost occult fictions as a chaotic magical philosophy,
right,
which makes a lot of sense, especially the way that Lovecraft factors into all of this, because the way that we can look at our history of technology and the Faustian bargain that we constantly make. It's like every time that we increase our use of different technologies, it's like we lose something. But in that, there's also something that's constantly traveling towards us. And I think that's clearly the obsession with the apocalypse right now is that that thing that's been traveling towards us, people are starting to speculate how close it actually is, but it certainly reminds of like the coming of the old ones, right? Like this call that somebody's been making and opened this window into our world, and therefore there's this
right.
juggernaut coming our way.
I don't really, I still, and this is always going to trip me up, I guess, until it's at my doorstep. Like, what? I mean, and even how she lays out the idea of these artificial agents, these AI type entities that are sort of unknowable to us. Um, I don't know. It all still kind of feels in the realm of even with like the alien stuff, which is interesting that she uses ufology as such a heavy reference point in this book, and something I really appreciated too. But I have not, and no one has really had all that much experience in dealing with these intelligences in the way that she's talking about. It's still very, to me, they might be here right now. This might be like they might not be here because of this dark forest theory, which I guess we can explain, but they might not be showing themselves. They might be not understandable in terms that we would
To check
understand as
out
intelligence.
patreon.com
But all that
slash
really adds up to
unreality.
me is like,
For just $5 a month, you can access our full
like
episode
okay,
archive,
like
5 years worth that's only hosted there. regular exclusive episodes, which are ongoing and exclusively hosted at patreon.com/consensusunreality, written content, a Discord server, and if you join our print tier club, you get access to our printed Journal of Shells, plus other printed and recorded materials in the mail. That's really cool, so check that out. Thanks for listening. As always,